Hi, in this video I'm going to talk you through paper A, the second paper, the calculator paper, from the practice papers available at national5maths.co.uk. So question 1, usually a percentage question. It asks you for the population of a town after 4 years. So the population is increasing at a rate of 2.4. So if you have to increase something by 2.4, we're thinking of 100% plus 2.4, which is 102.4%. This is a quick way of doing it. Now 102.4% as a decimal, you divide that by 100 and it gives you this 1.024. Most people will just go straight to that. This is called your multiplier. This is a quick way of finding 2.4% adding on. 2.4% adding on is simply multiplying by this number. So you take that, because it wants 4 years, you use the power 4 and you times it by the previous population. And you should get an answer of 580,542.1395. Now, I've written down the full calculator answer. It then asks us to round it to the nearest thousand. So to the nearest thousand would be 580, but the next number's a 5, so it's going to go up to 581,000 to the nearest thousand. Okay? So always watch percentages and volume. Quite often ask you about sig figure rounding as well. Second question asks us to do the standard deviation and a statement. So I'm going to do the standard deviation bit first. So that's, I do the table with the x minus x bars. There are two methods available, but this is the way I'm going to work through because this is the way my classes do it. So we set out this table. We put all our numbers in the table. I always encourage you to not change the order of the numbers at all, because then you might accidentally change one or miss one. 48 and 62. So our table looks like that. Then the first thing you do is you go work out what the mean is. So the mean is when you add up all your numbers and divide by 6 in this case, because there's 6 numbers. And I get 360 divided by 6 is 60. Now a wee tip would be, see if it's not a nice number you get, please go check it, because 9 times out of 10 it should be a nice number in an exam question. So the middle column you get by that by doing each of your numbers take away 60. So 73 take away 60 is 13. 47 minus 60 is minus 13. 59 take away 60 is minus 1. That gives us 11, minus 12 and 2. Then we square each of these numbers, so it gives us 169, 169. Remember, there should be no negatives in this column. Any number squared is positive. Sorry, I've gone out of sync here when I've added them all up. And then what we do is we add them all up and we get a total, which is 608. Now the standard deviation formula is given to you on the sheet, so there's no reason to copy it down incorrectly. And it looks like this. Now that sum of sine means the total of the x minus x bar squareds column, namely this big one that I write a big box around, so that goes in the top of your formula. N minus 1, there are 6 numbers in your list, take away 1 is 5, and a big square root right over all of it. And if you work that out to one decimal place, it doesn't ask about rounding, so you can either do 1 or 2. Let's do it to 2, so it's 0.27, so 11.03, and that's to 2 decimal places. Okay, then it had us to do a comparison, so that's part A, but I've done it in the part B kind of space. Next, it asks us to do a little comparison. So group A, the mean was 60 and the standard deviation was 1103. In group B, the mean is 60 and the standard deviation is 29.8. Now, I've no clue what it's talking about, so I'm going to flip back to the top. We were actually talking about the groups of 2 students are given the same test. So we've got 2 pupils doing a test, group A and group B. So because they've given us group B's information second, I'm going to start with group B. So I'm going to say group B, no, first sentence actually, I'm going to start with on average. Group B, oh, they both get a mean of 60. So I'm going to say group A and B score the same. So I've turned the word mean into average. So on average, group A and B score the same. And then I'm going to start group B. Then I'm going to look at their numbers. So group B had a standard deviation of 11 compared to group A with 29. So group B's standard deviation is a lot smaller. It's a lot closer to 0. So that means all their numbers are a lot closer together. So the group B scores are closer together. You can either say less varied, more consistent. I'm going to say less varied. You don't need to say why. So on average, both classes score the same, but group B scores are less varied. Okay? Right, next question wants us to multiply out some brackets. Now there are two ways of doing this. I'm going to use basically the kind of FOIL method. So I'm going to times absolutely everything in the second bracket by x. So that gives me 2x cubed, 3x squared, minus 1x. Oh, I don't really need the 1 in there. Okay, so there's my first line, everything multiplied out by 4. Then I'm by 1, sorry. Then I'm going to times everything by positive 4. So 4 times 2x squared is 8x squared. Now I'm writing it here, I'm writing it under my x squared. It's just the way I like to lie it out because it makes the tidying up so much easier. 4 times 3 is 12, so plus 12x, and 4 times minus 1 is minus 4. Then I tally everything up, so I've got 2x cubed still. And then these two add really nicely. Look, 8 add 3 is 11x squared. The next two, you've got minus 1 plus 12, which is plus 11x, take away 4. And that's your final answer for that one. Okay, bit of trigonometry, no one ever likes these ones. So we have Gordon walking in a bearing of 45. So that means this angle here to here is 45, from north to Gordon. Brian walks in a bearing of 100, so right the way around from north to 100 is Brian. So that makes the angle in this triangle here 100 take away 55, because remember it's 100 right the way round to there. So I want the one that's in the triangle. So 100 take away 45 is 55. So I'm going to put a 55 in there. It then says you walk there at 4.4 kilometres per hour and 4.8 kilometres per hour. We want to know how far apart they'll be after 2 hours. So your distance is your speed times time. So we're basically going to times both their distances by 2. So Gordon's distance is 4.4 doubled is 8.8. And 4.8 doubled is 9.6. And then we want the distance between the two people. So this is called a cosy corner one. You know the two sides and the angle between. I sometimes talk about if you can put your head in the angle and wave out to the two sides, then it's cosine rule. So that's what we're going to be using here. So that is the one that goes a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. B and c are your two sides, doesn't matter which way around they go. So it's 8.8 plus 9.6, both squared. Take away 2 times 8.8 times 9.6 times cos, and your angle in the middle was 55. You then just go straight to your calculator and work that out all in one go. And we get 72.68888, keeps going, and then we square root that because that's what a squared was. So a is the square root of that number. I'm just going to squeeze it in over here. And they've not mentioned any kind of rounding, so I'm just going to do one decimal place. So they are 8.525, so 8.85, sorry, 8.5, and it was kilometres. And that's my answer, that's how far apart they are. Next question, what's the perimeter of the mirror? So remember, perimeter is the distance right around the outside of the shape. So we've got a few things to get here. We have to get the arc, and we also have to get these bits here, the sides on your kite shape. So I'm going to start with the bit in the arc. If the angle in the centre there is 140, then that other angle on the other side is 220. So to find that arc length, it's going to be angle over 360 times pi d. So it's 220 over 360 times pi times d. Now it tells me the circle has a radius of 50. So this is 50. So that makes my d, my diameter, 100. If I work that out in my calculator, that should give me 191. I'm going to do it a couple of decimal places. So 191.99 if I do it to 2 decimal places. So that's just for the arc bit. Next I have to find the distance from A to B or B to C. Now they are tangents. Now tangents means that that's a right angle triangle. Now if that's a right angle triangle, this side is 50. I need to know the side down the middle. And I've split that angle down the middle, so that is 70. And that is 20. You've got two options here. You could use SOHCAHTOA, or you could use the sine rule. I'm just going to sketch this triangle a bit nicer, okay? So we want this bit. We know this is 50. We know this is 70. This is 20. And we don't know this bit either. We don't know from 0 to B, but we don't need it. So I'm going to go use sine rule. I'm going to use these ones. So I'm going to have x over sine 70. Remember, sine rule is all about opposites. And 50 over sine 20. And then I'm going to bring the sine 70 up. So I've got 50 times sine 70 all over sine 20. And that should give me 2 seconds, and I'll type that into my calculator. Gives me 54.95. So my total perimeter is 191.99 plus 2 of those sides of the kite, so 2 lots of 54.95. And it gives me a total answer of 229.89 centimetres. Okay, so yeah, we could have also used SOHCAHTOA and either tan rule to get that one, but I definitely think sine rule is probably an easy way to go because it's what you're more familiar with. Question 6 wants the volume of a cylinder. So a cylinder is pi r squared h. This is not given to you. This is one you need to memorise. So for this cylinder, we've got pi times your radius is 20 squared times 50. So the radius is pi times 20 squared times 50 is this number here, 62831.85. Now they wanted it to 2 significant figures, so always watch out for that. So to 2 significant figures, the 8 is going to make that 2 go up, so it would be 63124 to 2 significant figures. It then says liquid from this container can fill 800 cups in the shape of cones, each with a radius of 3. What will the height of the cup be? Right, so this new shape is a cone. So a cone is 1/3 pi r squared h. It's very similar to the cylinder, only it's got a third in front. Now we have got this one here, the cylinder, filling 800 of these cups. Now it doesn't matter which answer you go with, whether you use the unrounded one or the rounded one, but see, because they've made you do the rounded one, I think it's for a reason. It's probably because it's going to make a nicer answer. Now I've just noticed a mistake in my answer. I have got 1 0 too many on there. It should be 68,000, sorry. So I'm glad I noticed that now. So my number is 63,000. I'm going to divide that by this 800 and see what we get. We get 78.75. Now that is the volume of 1 cup. So I know that 1/3 times pi times my radius of 3 times my height, which I don't know yet, gives me a volume of 78.75. That's what I know. I know I've got the volume of a cone is that, and that's as much as I can put in. Now there's different ways to go from here. If you can either work out all the numbers on the left hand side, or you can do it all by complete change the subject. Now bear in mind we want h on its own, so to get h on its own, a third means divide by 3, that becomes a times by 3 on the other side. So you've got 78.75 times 3. A times by pi and a times by 3 squared both become a divide. So I bring them down all in one go. And then if you use that lovely fraction button on your calculator, you can go just type that in as it looks. And you should get, excuse me, you should get 8.36 centimetres for the height. And it's not mentioned any rounding for the height, I don't think. So that's your answer there. So as I said, there are other ways of doing that one. You could alternatively work out what a third of pi times 3 squared is, get that number, and then do 78.75 divided by that instead. So we've got a pentagon. It's worth knowing that each line from the centre to the outside of this pentagon is all identical. So we have got 5 identical triangles. So our mission here is really to find the area of one triangle and then multiply it by 5. Now that means both sides are 10. And if you get the angle in the middle, 360 is a full turn. Divide that by 5, you get 72. So the angle in the middle is 72. So we've really just got a triangle here. Area of a triangle is half AB sine C. So half AB sine C. So your sides are 10 and 10. So it's a half times 10 times 10 times sine of 72. Go type that into your calculator. And you will get an answer of 47.55. Now that is one triangle, so our total area, so the actual area of the pentagon, is that answer times 5. And if you times it by 5, I'm going to use the exact answer that was in my calculator, and you get 237.76 centimetres squared. So they will allow a little variation on the rounding there, whether you're using the exact answer like I did, or whether you're taking the 0.55 answer and then multiplying it by 5, as long as you know that you're multiplying by 5 to get the total area of the pentagon. Okay, so a bit of indices. We have to express this in its simplest form. So anytime you multiply brackets, remember you're multiplying. And the rule for indices, if you're multiplying indices, so for example, if you've got two different powers, when you multiply, you add the powers, okay? And if there's any numbers in front, you do the exact same. So we've really got a 1 times a 2 if you're looking at numbers in front. So we've got a 2a, and then you've got 2 take away a half. Now if you're not able to do that mentally, 2 take away a half, think if you're eating a cake, that would be 8 halves take away 1 half, so you can leave that as 7 halves. Okay? It's really 1.5, which is 7 halves altogether, plus then you've got a squared times a, which is a cubed. And that's that for that one. For the second one, it's asking you to do a formula, a trinomial equal to 0, and it wants your answer to 1 decimal place. That is your cue to use the quadratic formula. So I'm first of all going to write down what my values are. So a is the first number, b is the second number, and c is the end number. Now I always get 4ac while I'm here. So 4ac would be 4 times 3 times 7. And there's a negative 7 there, so that would be negative 84. Now the quadratic formula is on your sheet. You just have to make sure you copy it down correctly. You have no idea how many people don't. So you have this. Okay. Now minus b is the opposite of whatever you've said b is at the side. So our b is positive, so it becomes negative. Plus or minus. B squared is 3 squared, so I go straight to 9. It's take away 4ac, so it's take away 84. Now minus minus becomes a double plus. And then it's all over 2a. 2a is 2 times 3, which is 6. So that's your first mark for the substitution. Then we tidy up that bit under the square root. 9 plus 84 is 93, all over 6. Then you split that into 2 little sums, alright? So you do it one with a plus, and you do it as one with a minus. And normally I would write these side by side, but I don't quite have enough room. So these are your two sums. And you go to your calculator. Please be careful typing this in. If you've got that lovely fraction button with the square over the square, you can just type it in as it looks. If not, I always press equals after I hit that top line. So I do -3 plus root 93 equals before I divide it by 6. And I get 1.1 for one of my answers to one decimal place. And for the second one, I get -2.1. Just going to check that first answer again because I don't seem to remember putting that negative in. If you don't know how to put a negative into your calculator, yeah, you should have a button that says plus minus or a little minus in a bracket. You can also use your takeaway. So yeah, that was the two answers to one decimal place. All right. Please watch your rounding as well. What it asks for always changes on those questions. Right, solve the equation. So this is one of the ones that uses all sine, tan, cos table. Our first mission is to rearrange this so that it's tan x equals. So I'm going to move that 5. So I've got 4 tan x equals -5. And then I'm going to divide that by 4. So I've got -5/4. Tan is negative, so I don't tick all in tan. Right, I use the other two. I'm going to use sine and cos. I go to my calculator and I do x equals inverse tan of 5/4. And I can use that with my fraction button, or I can just do it as 5 divided by 4. So shift tan of 5 divided by 4 is, to nearest whole number, I'm going to call it 51. Now I don't call it x at this point, I call it the acute angle, right? Because that isn't going to be one of my answers. That would have been one of my answers between 0 and 90, but I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for answers between 90 and 180 and then 270 and 360. So my associated acute angle is 51. In the sine box, I say, well, that's 180 minus 51, which is 129. And the cos box, I say that's 360 take away 51, which is 309. So my two answers are 121 and 309. Part B is a show that whenever you see tan x, you're going to write tan equals sine over cos. This is one of the trig identities you had to remember. So this tan x cos x can be written as sine x over cos x. They're stuck together, so they're just timesing. Now, I'm timesing my cos x and dividing my cos x. They're going to cancel out, so it leaves me with just sine x, which was what they were after. So I have proved that one. I've got the answer they wanted of sine x. Most people don't like these. It's worth 1 or 2 marks. It's not worth stressing over. Okay, quadratics again here. So we've got a rectangular vent that is 30 by 10. I'm just going to put that on the picture. So this is 30 and this is 10. So at the moment, the area of this vent is 300 square centimetres. It's going to be enlarged on both sides by x. So the new dimensions are 30 plus x and 10 plus x. We have to show that the area of the new vent is given by this thing down here. So it means my new area, remember area is just length times breadth at the end of the day. So area equals length times breadth. So I've got 30 plus x times 10 plus x. If you multiply that out, you have got 300 plus 30x plus 10x. I think I've done that in the wrong order, but it doesn't matter. And then plus x squared. Put this in the order we're used to. The bit in the middle tidies up to 40x and 300 on the end. And that is exactly what we were asked for. It then says the area of the new vent must be at least 75% more than the original one. So if I have to increase the old vent by 75%, I times it by 1.75. So I'm doing 300 times 1.75, which is 525. So this is what the area of the new vent has to be. So I'm going to replace A with my 525. So what I've got is I've got x squared plus 40x plus 300 has to equal 525. I'm going to bring the 525 to the other side. 300 take away 525 leaves me with negative 225. Now at this point you have a trinomial equal to 0. There's no mention of decimal places, so it is a case of factorising. So I'm looking for numbers that go into 225 that add to 40. I'm thinking it's something to do with the number 15. 15 and 15 is 225. 25 and 9. 5 and 45 work. 5 and 45 multiply to 225. If I do 45, take away 5, that'll give me the 40. Now if you solve each of these equal to 0, you will get one positive, one negative answer. Now x cannot be 45, it can't be negative, so we discard that one. It can't be negative because we're talking lengths, it can't be negative length, so it means that x must be 10. So remember we said the events were 30 and 10 and we increase them both by 5. So our dimensions are both increased by 5. So that gives us 35 by 15. And that is your dimensions for that one. And that was the last question in the paper. I hope that might have helped. Thank you.